everybody, I'm Kerri Bailey and I'm an occupational therapist at Child's Play Therapy Center. And today I'm going to just show y'all a little bit about teaching your child how to cut with scissors, because I know it's something that a lot of times children get to preschool or to kindergarten and they need to be able to cut, and maybe they've never been exposed to cutting before at home. And as a parent, you may be thinking, well, why in the world do I want to teach my child how to cut with scissors? And that's certainly a good question, but cutting is a very important skill that we all need to know how to do. So it's all in making sure that your child knows the rules about cutting and that you start them out and do it in a developmentally appropriate sequence, because you're not going to start out right away doing some kind of a complex cutting activity. You want to start with something really, really simple. And I recommend that you start doing some cutting tasks with your child really when they're about 4 years old. If they show an interest in it a little bit earlier than that, you can start it a little bit earlier. But you would not start out even using scissors. You would start out maybe with using tongs or tweezers or something like that that you have in your house, and just have the child start practicing picking items up with the tongs or the tweezers and placing them in a container, because this is working on the same muscles that they're going to need for using scissors. So that would be step one. And then maybe once your child has gotten pretty good at that, you can move to the next step, which would be actually using scissors. And we like to start out with these little tiny scissors. And you can get these little tiny scissors at otideas.com. And they work really well for small hands and for beginners. And you're actually going to start them using the thumb and the middle finger in the scissors, and then the index finger goes on the outside to stabilize it. And you can also put some kind of a little item here in the palm to hold down the two little fingers to keep them tucked in as the child is practicing their cutting. And I would start out having them cut something like Play-Doh. So you can have the child roll out the Play-Doh, make a little snake with it, and of course this is good for their fine motor skills as well, just rolling out the Play-Doh, and then just have them practice snipping the Play-Doh, and you can have them pretend that they're making cookies or biscuits or whatever you want to do. And so that's a really easy early task that children can do. And then maybe after that I would have them practice cutting straws or coffee stirrers. So they would just take their scissors and just practice snipping. And of course they fly everywhere, and the kids like that they fly everywhere, so that's fun too. If you were using a full-size straw, you could even take the pieces of the straw and string them on yarn and make a necklace or something like that out of the straw pieces. When the child is ready for a little bit bigger scissors, I like the Fiskars scissors because they're very easy to use, but they are sharp enough for the child to actually cut, because there's nothing more frustrating than trying to cut with dull scissors. So it's okay for them to be blunt on the ends, but you do want them to be sharp enough that the child will be successful with their cutting. So some of the first things that I would have a child actually cut would be like old Christmas cards or junk mail or something of that consistency, because something a little bit thicker and sturdier is easier to cut than just regular thin paper. So you could just give them your old Christmas cards, and they're not going to be trying to cut a line or anything like that. They're just going to be cutting them up. And then you could also do that same type of thing with a paper plate. Maybe just have them fringe around the outside of a paper plate. You could even turn that into a craft if you wanted to. So those are the type things that I would start with. When your child is being pretty successful with that, you can move on to having them practice cut a line. And I would start with something real simple. So here they're not cutting out the kites, they're just cutting the line between the kites. So you could have them color the kites first and then cut the line. And what I would do is take an index card and I would glue the picture to the index card so that they're still using something a little bit sturdier than just the flimsy paper, and then they can practice just cutting right across that line and cutting the kites in two. You can also, this one is not on an index card, you could do it with or without, but you can put some stickers on the line, as you can see that I've done. And so the child is going to be just cutting across the line, and the stickers give them a guide or a target that they're working toward. And of course it would be a great idea to have the child do the stickers themselves, because peeling and sticking the stickers is also a great fine motor activity. You can also have the index cards that already come with the colored stripes on them, and so that's a great activity, is just having a child cut across the stripes, and you could use the stickers for that as well. So once they've pretty well mastered all of that, you're ready to move to a more complex activity, which would be just cutting out shapes for a simple color cut and glue task, where they're going to cut this out and glue it onto the robot. Once they've mastered that, they're pretty well on their way with cutting. So that's how we like to teach children how to cut. Remember to do it in that developmental sequence. And of course, make sure your child knows the rules for what they're allowed to cut and what they're not allowed to cut. And so that's why I recommend that you maybe would just have a little tub or a bucket like this that you keep all of their cutting materials in, and then the child knows that these are the things that are okay for them to cut. So that's it. I hope you have fun teaching your child to cut.